doing the trade deadline thing now, and there's a lot to talk about. That came together pretty nice. How about that? Trade deadline day. I'm excited. It has passed. All the dust has settled. Usually you get a few that squeak through after the 3 o'clock deadline, but now we should be totally good. No surprises. No nothing. It's all done. And, of course, the huge trade of the day that we got to start with. Joe Ingles going to the Blazers. He's hurt. Where did that come from? All right, we'll get into it. I'm not going to worry about it. We're going to do the big ones, and then we'll trickle down. We'll talk about every single trade. I'm not going to leave any out. I'm intrigued by the role players. I'm intrigued by the teams that didn't do anything. The Lakers didn't make a move. The Knicks did nothing. Are you kidding me? Trade someone. Do something. Let's get into it. I really was on Ingles. You see it. All right. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The Harden deal happens. The Simmons deal happens. I had initial thoughts of like, wow, Brooklyn robbed them. And my thought was that because I originally, right away, my gut instinct was, oh, Philly's going to have to pay Embiid and Harden on long-term supermax deals in order to keep this thing together. And that scares the shit out of me. Because Harden, I just don't want to pay $250 million at this stage in his career, even though I like him as a player right now. And Embiid, the health thing is just scary. You're already paying him, and he's the MVP, so you can pay him, but paying both is a little terrifying to me. And then I thought about it, and from their point of view, if you're Daryl Morey, I've seen people ripping on Morey, and I'm like, Stephen A. Smith says he's got to be fired, and I can't even believe I'm giving him any credit because he's just looking for the headline. But still, how was Morey or the Sixers ever going to do better than this? They weren't. We were talking about how Ben Simmons might get... I did a show forever ago talking about how Simmons for CJ McCollum might make sense. Then CJ McCollum gets traded for Josh Hart, and Ben Simmons gets traded for James Harden. I know they gave up 2 first-round picks, but those are really low first-round picks because the Sixers are going to be very good. So it's the bottom 10 of the first round. Those are fine. They're fine. They're valuable, but it's not act like it's breaking the bank. The Seth Curry thing, I think, is big, right? Very important that the Nets get Seth Curry. Very impactful that the Sixers have to give him up. However, we were also talking about the Ben Simmons and Maxey for Jaylen Brown kind of trade. And so I'd rather give up Seth Curry than Maxey. Even though I like Seth Curry a lot, it still makes sense, right? And then you're throwing in Drummond. Who cares? You can get a backup big for Embiid. I mean, they can go get one off the scrap heap. I know they didn't trade for another one, but like Niang can play some minutes. Paul Reed can play a couple minutes. They'll go small. Embiid's going to play in crunch time every single time. They do lack size a little bit now. They get Millsap back. Maybe he can play small ball 5 when Embiid isn't on the court. Maybe in a buyout, they go get a big, whatever. Drummond isn't the missing piece here, right? And never really fit on the Sixers anyway because he's not getting enough minutes. On the Nets, he'll actually have an impact, which is really good for the Nets. This is a great deal for the Nets. Don't get me wrong. Like, if I had to pick a winner, I'll pick the Nets. But you also don't know what you're getting from Simmons. So all that risk that we were talking about still applies. So everyone that's like the Nets robbed them, highway robbery, drive-by, whatever other stuff there is for robberies, heists maybe, we got to give it a second here. I think this is actually a pretty solid trade. I really think both teams can benefit from this. And I talked myself into this right before starting the show. There's a world where Harden picks up his next year option already, right? So that already happened. You have this year with this team, Maxey, Harden, Tybal, Harris, Embiid with Niang, Green, Korkmaz, Milton, Isaiah Joe, all those guys off the bench, right? Pretty good. Pretty good. Can win. They can win the championship right now. And they have this same exact team next year. They bought themselves a 2-year window, and by that point, one of those draft picks will already be gone, and the other one you're only giving up one spot, and the fit with Harden and Embiid is terrifying. Is there a better 1-2 punch in the league? Maybe LeBron and Davis? They fit like a freaking glove if they can get it to work. They have defenders around them that they need. There's no hole in this roster. Even if they decide not to pay Harden the Supermax afterwards, I still think it's pretty good. You can, if it doesn't go well, you don't need to sign the extension now. Now, I'm going to look like an idiot if they end up signing the extension before the end of the year and whatever. I wouldn't do that if I'm them. I would give this a minute. You have him next year at the $48 million or whatever. You're cap strapped. This is your team. This isn't going anywhere. But if it goes bad and someone gets hurt or Harden doesn't play well or whatever, just because you made this trade doesn't mean you have to compound the issue by giving Harden another 5 years. So anyone who's saying that they're locked into that, which was me initially, I'm out on that actually. I think this is a 2-year window for the Sixers where they can win a championship, no doubt about it. They needed to get something around Embiid, the way he's playing at an MVP level, to the point where no big man has played like this, aside from Jokic, in many, many years, and Embiid brings a defensive ability to the table that Jokic couldn't even sniff. So, you had to do this, right? What is anyone thinking about bashing the Sixers? What? You didn't even know if you would be able to trade Simmons for anything. You got James Harden. This is dream come true for Daryl Morey. This is him proving, I told you I would wait, I told you I'd be patient, and I told you I'd get an all-star. Now they have to give up Curry, Drummond, and 2 first-round picks. Sure, I get that. But in no world was Curry, Drummond, and 2 first-round picks going to be anywhere close to getting James Harden. Or anyone for that matter. Like, Curry, Drummond, and 2 first-round picks without the Simmons piece could have gotten you, maybe that gets you a McCollum kind of player, or maybe someone a little better than that. But the point is, they saw an opportunity. They got Simmons out the door, an unknown quantity. They got a known quantity back that they know fits on the roster that they already wanted. And everyone seems happier now. Now, will Harden be happy in 6 months? You never know. Will Simmons be happy in Brooklyn? I mean, he damn well should. This is the best fit you could possibly have. This Nets team, the funny thing is, these two teams are going to be the teams doing battle in the East with each other. That's the rarity here. It's interesting. And the Nets are, man, the Kyrie thing has to come together for them. Because if you have Kyrie and KD taking all the shots and you have Simmons being the defensive stopper, and now you have Drummond being able to at least fill a role. I don't know if he'll close out games for them because of the free throw shooting, but he will fill a role. And you get 2 first-round picks coming, so your future isn't in crazy jeopardy like it was before. Because before it was like, what if Harden flames out? What if Kyrie flames out? Then you have KD, you have no picks, you have no big man. What are we doing? You rounded out the roster now. This Nets depth chart, all of a sudden, the Curry and Drummond piece, I like that. You know, I'm not going to say just as much as Simmons, but geez, look at this. I mean, I don't know why Kessler Edwards is on here because KD isn't whatever. But man, Claxton and Drummond and Aldridge is more than enough to fill the big man role at all times. So that's kind of figured out now. Blake Griffin goes to the side. He won't play anymore. He'll back up KD for 5 minutes a game or whatever it is. I don't know what this depth chart is. I don't know why Seth Curry is the small forward. I don't know what's happening here. But you're going to have Kyrie, Seth Curry, Simmons, KD, and then a big. And then off the bench, you still have Mills, Brown, Griffin, the other two bigs. James Johnson can play a minute. Cam Thomas can still shoot. And you still have Joe Harris, who could still come back. All of a sudden, this Nets team is deep as fuck. And before, they had no depth outside of the three. So I really think that getting just these two players makes a huge difference. 2 players added to your rotation is wild. Need some green tea, because we're talking about a lot of these trades, aside from this one, are just driven by the green, the cash, the scratch. This trade's fascinating, though, man. This is awesome. It's really cool. It's wild that this Nets experiment lasted 16 games. They played 16 games together, the three of them, and they went 13-3. And then it was over like that. Like that. There it is. You gotta time it. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what to make of Harden. I acknowledge that that could implode, but I also acknowledge that there's a world where on the Sixers depth chart, Korkmaz and maybe Isaiah Joe, they feel like can step in and fill that shooter role that Curry left. And you still have a rock-solid team. You have enough depth here. I really think you do. And you flank Harden with a defender like Tybal. I don't know if Maxey... They're still going to get destroyed by guards. That's the only problem with this team, because Maxey and Harden aren't going to be... That ain't it, right? But you have Embiid to protect the paint. Harris can hopefully survive, and Tybal can defend their best player. And Danny Green can come in for defense too. I just think these two, like... I'm shocked there weren't more moves in the East. I think it probably caught a lot of teams off guard. The Cavs made their move. They'll be good. I don't know if they're on the level of these two teams. The Celtics made a small move, which I predicted in the other show. Derrick White knew it was going to happen. I don't know how I pulled that one off, but I did. Check the YouTube. Check the receipts. They're there. Subscribe, like, yada. Hornets didn't do much. Hawks didn't do much. Wizards... I mean, we'll talk about it. Knicks did nothing. Pacers made some moves. They sold as much as they possibly could. There weren't that many overall volume trades. The Heat did nothing, but they'll get Oladipo back. I guess they view that as their trade. Let's just go through the rest of them. Let's go through the rest of these deals one by one, and then we'll come back to the standings after to see how it's all impacted. I feel like the East had so much more movement than the West, obviously, because of this Simmons-Harden thing. But yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised for both teams, and I'm very surprised how much people are hating on the Sixers. I don't understand. James Harden, no matter how you slice it, is a top... I mean, he's a top 10 player. Anyone who says otherwise is just trolling. But he's top 15, he's top 20, whatever. You didn't think you were going to be able to give Simmons for anything. There was no rumor of another trade happening. And if they let this deadline go by and wasted this season that Embiid is having without putting anyone else around him, it's a disaster. They were not going to win the championship because of Seth Curry. You know, I love Seth Curry. Like, I really do like him. And I think it's a blow that they have to lose him, but it's better than losing Maxey or Tybal. And Drummond is like, all right, whatever. He plays 10 minutes a game behind Embiid. It's fine. So, yeah. I think the Sixers did well here. I really do. They give up a lot of capital. It looks like a lot. The first-round picks aren't as much as you think they are. I don't know what years they are, actually. Maybe Reddit has that. 2022 unprotected first-round pick. And they are currently in 5th, which will go up. Let's go to the league. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Riveting content counting. They're 9th. That would be the 21st pick. I mean, it's going to be a bottom... It's probably going to be a bottom 5 pick for next year. I'm not that worried about that. And then the other one is a 2027 protected. It's fine. The Lakers couldn't get anyone to take their 2027 pick because it's all they had. This is fine. And they get Millsap back. Maybe he can play a couple minutes. I don't know. But I think it's fine. Everyone ripping them is just weird. You're weirdos. You're weird. You're weird people. All right. We talked a lot about the LeVert trade in a previous one. I love it. They won their first game with him. He's getting into rhythm. Looks like they still might bring him off the bench, which I actually really like. So Cavs upgraded for sure. We talked about the McCollum trade. I don't understand this. I just don't. The only way I've talked myself into it is that the Pelicans had so many picks already from the Drew Holiday and Anthony Davis trades that they can't sell again. There's just no reason to. At a certain point, you become the Thunder and you don't even know what to do with the picks. They get Larry Nance back. He'll have knee surgery, but he'll be back for a potential playoff, which it actually looks like this team is... They're probably going to sneak in, right? Because I don't think any of the... Maybe the Kings make a run with Sabonis. They actually looked good last night. I didn't really like that trade for them, and I still don't. But they're going to score a lot with Sabonis. That ball is going to fly around. They're not going to defend anyone, though. So I think it's going to be Pelicans versus Kings in the battle of the trade deadline teams who are trying to sneak in and have the right to get their ass kicked in a play-in game. Cool, I guess. But yeah, I didn't understand that one. I still don't understand that one. I don't think CJ McCollum is a huge upgrade over Josh Hart. And you gave up Alexander Walker, too, and a first-round pick and 2 future seconds. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe McCollum is much better than Josh Hart, and I like Josh Hart too much. I don't know. But I think they're like comparable impact-wise in different ways. So I don't love what the Pelicans are doing. I understand that they need to try to do something. They can't keep selling, and they had to like convince their fans like, no, we're not going to move the team, guys. We're good. We got CJ McCollum. And I guess if you put Zion and CJ McCollum and Ingram next to each other, you're onto something? I don't know. What pick was that? Let me go back to Reddit. It should be towards the top. 2022 protected. I assume that's lottery protected. Which means they probably won't get it this year, right? Unless one of these teams improves. So hard to say, but I don't like what the Pelicans did there. I understand it. I just don't like it. We talked about the Sabonis-Halliburton thing a little bit, I think. But in the essence of going through all of the trades, I hate giving up Halliburton. Why do you draft a guy if he's going to be really awesome? You have him under 5 years of control. Your team is bad. You finally have the building block, and you give him up for a guy that is not as controlled, who will probably request a trade within 2 years. I love Sabonis. And I actually think Lamb and Holiday are role players that will get into the rotation to replace Hield and Tristan Thompson. I actually really like Jeremy Lamb, and I think he was buried in the depth chart there. UConn guy, so I'm biased. He won a championship with Kemba, greatest backcourt duo in college basketball history, but it's neither here nor there. I think he can do a Buddy Hield impression. It's not going to be good, but I also don't think Buddy Hield he's a little overrated. He's just mainly a shooter, and Lamb can shoot. I really like Sabonis. Like, I get it. If you decide that you're keeping Fox and maybe you couldn't trade him for anything and you're like, we got to do something here, I wouldn't have done this. I don't know. I wouldn't have given up Halliburton. He would have been untouchable for me. But if you're going to, if you said, hey, we have to trade Halliburton, it's happening, deal with it, what can we get? Then yeah, I like Sabonis. So if that's a ringing endorsement, then yeah, I don't know. I imagine the Pacers are very happy. They're going to let Brogdon go in the offseason. They'll trade him for probably a first-round pick or a piece. And then all of a sudden the Pacers have Halliburton and Turner. And let's go to Pacers depth chart. And you get Hield in. Turner isn't here because he's hurt. You have Duarte. So you'll have Halliburton and Duarte as the backcourt. I actually kind of like that. You have Buddy Hield off the bench as a guard. And then you have Miles Turner. And you have all this with Rick Carlisle. And by next year, you can see that if you can trade Brogdon for a power forward or a swingman of some kind to play on the wing, you got your team actually in a spot where you're not hating yourself. And you kind of were hating yourself before. So, yeah, I like what the Pacers did. I don't like what the Kings did. And I expect them to be trying to deal, but they'll give it a year probably. And at next year's deadline, I imagine you start to hear about Sabonis trade stuff already. And by that next season, they're going to try to continue to trade Fox. Like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what it is. I joked about the Ingles trade. this is a weird one because Alexander Walker gets retraded, right? And Satoransky too. They weren't going to make the rotation. So the Jazz get Juancho, who actually can play a little bit on the wing, and Alexander Walker can too. They figured probably hopefully one of these can work their way into the rotation to replace Ingles, who was hurt. Portland, I mean, they just wanted the second round pick, I guess. And is Ingles under contract? Let's find out. No. So they get an expiring contract and a second round pick for nothing, basically, which is good. Spurs get Satoransky, which makes so much sense. Although I think he might have gotten rerouted too, but we'll go on. In the Dragic deal, maybe? I don't know. I know they waived him. And he'll be on to Dallas, I'm sure. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, who cares? I like the role player deals, but these teams are irrelevant. The Jazz will hope to get one of these guys working in their playoff rotation. They might need it, right? Let's go to the Jazz depth chart for a second because they're missing that Ingles piece. And you have the starting five, which is fine. You have Rudy Gay off the bench. You have Jordan Clarkson. I guess you can play Hassan Whiteside if you need minutes for Gobert to hit the bench. But you were kind of missing a backup swing. And Alexander Walker can probably do that. He can handle the ball a little bit, and Juancho can be further down the depth chart. I don't think that's that bad. I get it. And they didn't have to give up much. Second round picks. And a guy who tore his ACL and wouldn't be back anyway. Not bad. Anyone named KZ is cool. That's my take on this trade. You know? Good stuff. This four-way deal, fascinating. A lot of people that we talked about on the Sellers show ended up in the same trade, which I didn't really expect. I did talk about Dante DiVincenzo getting moved because I feel like they have some redundancy there. And the Bucks get Ibaka back. And Portis and Ibaka together should be all the center minutes, I think. Giving up DiVincenzo, I like Dante DiVincenzo. But that injury seems to have hurt him a little bit. And I think they like Grayson Allen better. And they have Wes Matthews. And they have Connaughton. And they just had too many of those same guys. So I get it. They needed to reshuffle the lineup a little bit. But if you have this starting five with Wes Matthews, George Hill, Connaughton, and Ibaka off the bench, that's 9 deep. You can do it. Giannis ain't coming out. And they needed a big. They needed a big badly. I thought maybe Valanciunas would get moved. I thought there would be some other bigs that got moved. But Ibaka makes sense. He's playoff tested. He's not very good anymore. But all you need is some level of rim protection. Because Portis doesn't... He's having a good year, but he doesn't really provide that. And if you go against a team with a couple bigs, if you go against Joel Embiid, right? I'm not saying Serge Ibaka is going to do anything to him, really. And I still imagine the Bucks will test the waters in the buyout market. But you have to have a body there. And Portis ain't it. You have to have something. You have to have someone who can give fouls, at least. So we'll see if Ibaka gets his way into that rotation. But it makes sense to me on the surface to give up DiVincenzo for Ibaka. Bagley gets routed to the Pistons. I will like to see how he plays with Cade Cunningham. I don't hate that. Let's look at the Pistons depth chart. I think he could maybe... That's good for him. No pressure. He only has to beat out Kelly Olynyk and Isaiah Stewart. He can get minutes here. I mean, this is a logjam. Like, you got to beat out people. You got Luka Garza there. You got Isaiah Stewart, who's been pretty good. Jeremy Grant didn't get traded. I mean, that's ridiculous. I don't know. The Pistons bought a player at the deadline and didn't sell anyone. All right. But still, you get to see if Cade and Bagley can work a little big little magic. You know? Maybe. Rodney Hood to the Clippers and Semi Ojeleye. This is just filler. Josh Jackson, Trey Lyles. I mentioned that those guys could get traded. Mostly filler. So the Pistons ended up giving Josh Jackson and Trey Lyles for Marvin Bagley, which is great. I think the Pistons did well. You take a flyer on a guy that was supposed to be really good, and I still believe in. The Clippers get salary filler, which is fine. They give up Ibaka, don't get really anything. That's weird. That is weird. But you don't need Ibaka. And is Rodney Hood under contract? Do you even want him? Why did they do this deal? What motivation did they have? Were they going to cut Ibaka or something? No, it's free agent. And you don't want Semi Ojeleye. Maybe... What's the Clippers depth chart look like? Because they seem like they're going to go for the playoffs this year. Which is weird because they're going to do it without Kawhi and Paul George, and they should just be tanking. This is a tank roster. But yeah, I don't know if Rodney Hood or Semi Ojeleye make this team. So you gave up Ibaka instead of cutting him? I don't know. I'm not sure about that. And the Kings. So now you look at the Kings. And you have, I imagine DiVincenzo. How hurt is he? Let's find out. Game log. He's not playing. Oh, he is playing. He's back. Okay. So he'll play for them. So I think he moves into that starting lineup probably. Holiday's a good piece. I don't deny that. And Mo Harkless will probably be pushed out, right? So you have Holmes and Sabonis as bigs, however you want to do that. And Metu will play a little bit. And then you have Fox, Davion Mitchell, Dante DiVincenzo, Harrison Barnes, Justin Holiday. I mean, I get it. I still just can't believe they gave up Halliburton. But you replace Halliburton with DiVincenzo, and then you get a free Sabonis. If you look at it that way, it's like, all right, I get it. But this is an interesting one. It helps the Bucks more than anybody else, I think. I think Ibaka will play a role if he's able to, if he's able to stay healthy. The Goran Dragic one we saw coming, and Thad Young I mentioned would probably be traded too. This is just a whole lot of mostly nothing because Dragic wasn't playing for Toronto and won't play for the Spurs. He already got waived. He's going to go to, it sounds like Dallas, which we got to talk about them. I mean, but we'll get there. Thad Young is pretty much done, but he gives the Raptors a wing defender, I guess. Is he going to... I mean... I guess you take it for free, right? And... they gave up a first-round pick to do this. So they really wanted him out of there. Did he get a contract? Because it's a one-year deal, isn't it? Yeah. And he's 35 years old. So why wouldn't they have just kept the expiring rather than giving up their first round pick this year? I guess they're viewing it as if they get the Spurs second round pick via Detroit, this is going to be like the first pick in the second round, roughly. And this is going to be, they're going to lose like 10 spots, 10, 15 spots in the draft in order to give up Dragic and get Thad Young and Eubanks. That does not seem worth it to me. And Eubanks was waived. So this is opening up a roster? No, it's not, because Thad Young is going to make the roster. I don't really get it. I don't get this one. And look, you can't always judge everything immediately, but this is an expiring contract too, so contract-wise, it doesn't make any movement. Why? Do the Raptors value Thad Young right now? Because I guess they're going to make the playoffs. I guess they'd rather have Thad Young than nobody. But why you're overvaluing him? Like, he's not going to make your rotation. Your starting five is set. I guess maybe their bench is really bad. I mean, I like Precious, but they have nobody else. I'm surprised they didn't go get a backup guard. Maybe they'll try a free agent, someone gets waived or something. It's funny because you would need Dragic, but he wouldn't play for them. I don't think Thad Young fixes anything. I can't believe they gave up a first-round pick for this. It's weird. Even though they're getting the good second-round pick, I don't like this trade for them at all. And I think the Spurs just pounced, and they were like, yeah, we'll move up in the draft. Okay. For nothing. Just to facilitate. That I don't understand at all. Magic get Bol. I mean, how many players can the Magic have? They have Mo Bamba and Bol on the same roster? Is that real life? They're out for the season, though. He tore his ACL. But still. Wancho goes to the Spurs in this deal. Yeah, there's a bunch of things that we don't really know yet, right? Like, this means nothing. I'm not going to spend time on it. It's just interesting. The Celtics moving out pieces to get cap space and roster space that they didn't spend. But maybe the buyout market is just bigger now, and people are, like, really preparing for that. It's possible. We talked about Harden and Simmons. This Derrick White for Josh Richardson thing makes a lot of sense to me. I get it. I definitely get it. I don't think Richardson belonged on the Spurs. I think the Spurs get rid of Derrick White's contract. I think Derrick White is an actual guard that can play alongside, and they got rid of Schroeder later in the day. So he'll soak up the Schroeder minutes. Much better guard than Schroeder, if you ask me. Could flourish. Needed a change of scenery. Gets paid a lot. He does get paid a lot. We talked about that in the Sellers show earlier in the week. But it's an upgrade for Boston because they've been trying really hard to get a point guard in there that resembles an actual point guard without breaking the bank. And they did it here. So I don't know if it'll go great, but I think it's worth the gamble. And you keep Marcus Smart, and I don't know if the Celtics are going anywhere this year, but they didn't break it up. They just kind of kicked the can down the road. And maybe Derrick White works out for them, and the offense starts to click with Brown and Tatum when they don't have to just play, you take the ball, you take the ball, you take the ball, and it's the Spider-Man meme. You know? So, I don't know if he's that much of a facilitator, really. But I don't think it's a bad trade. Torrey Craig, I mean, Phoenix hated Jalen Smith, huh? They drafted him, declined his option, and then traded him with the second-round pick to get Torrey Craig, who used to be on the Suns already. Good for the Pacers. They get another young guy who needs a chance, hasn't had any chance to play, and won't play in Phoenix. So I guess you take Torrey Craig over nobody, but this is a weird one. I don't know why they hate Jalen Smith so much. It's a little bizarre. I think the Pacers win this one. I think the Pacers did really well at the deadline, actually. Like, really, really well. Rick Carlisle. Happy camper. Montrezl Harrell, I had a feeling he might go. Washington really just did not enjoy what was happening on their team. Both these deals, they get rid of Holiday. They get rid of Montrezl Harrell. They were going nowhere fast. They got rid of Dinwiddie later. They're done. Washington is done. They're going to the tank. Beal is out for the season. They are going to tank very, very hard. Very, very hard. Look at this roster. Neto, Kispert, Caldwell Pope, Kuzma, and Porzingis is actually kind of a nice front court, if I'm being honest. We'll talk about the Porzingis thing in a second. And they get Vernon Carey, who I liked at Duke, but he hasn't done anything. Rui Hachimura. They have bigs. Like, they have Rui, they have Bryant, they have Gafford. They have a lot of bigs. Denny Advia. But the guards are all gone. So this team's going to struggle. They're going to struggle bad. They're going hard into the tank, try to get a draft pick, try to get Beal healthy for next year. Didn't deal him, could deal him in the offseason if they decide they want to and really tear it down. Or if they think there's an opportunity to see what the Kuzma, Porzingis, Beal thing can do and go get a point guard, they have options. So I don't hate what they did. But we'll talk about the Porzingis thing because, I mean, okay, here we go. This is the Wizards section of the pod. What? That's what I have to say about this trade. I don't understand what is happening at all with this one. First of all, let's talk about Dallas first, because Washington is a dumpster fire and they're selling. Dallas was playing really well. But this is the tit for tat that you have to decide when you're a GM, and this is why it's not an easy job. Same thing with the Simmons situation. Although he wasn't playing. And it could be viewed from the Harden situation, right? The point is, when you have an asset that, a quote-unquote asset, doesn't mean it's a positive one. When you have something on your books that you are worried about, and maybe the Nets were worried about Harden, if that asset is playing well, it's a good thing for you on the court, but you have to remember that all you're trying to do is increase the value of that player so you can deal them for something that's worth it. The problem becomes when that player is really good, you are more hesitant to trade them because your team's playing well with them. If you had said 1 year ago that I would have been able to trade Porzingis and for Dinwiddie and Bertans, everybody would have done that. And they would have been like, are you kidding me? We got out from the Porzingis contract? Let's look at the contracts. Porzingis? I mean, he could go into that if his career goes into the tank. I feel bad for Porzingis, man. This happened to him with the Knicks, too. He was finally playing well with the Knicks, gets hurt, they deal him. Now he gets back from the injury, finally, multiple injuries. He's playing well, they deal him to Washington. This guy can't win. He's not a bad player. He has a player option, so he's got a big contract, right? It's $100 million over the next 3 years, including this year. Let's look at Dinwiddie. I think it's one fewer year. Non-guaranteed, partially guaranteed for the third year. And then Bertans is not a contract you want either. Oh, it goes even further. This is, I mean, this is what I don't get about it. You were always going to have to deal Porzingis for another bad contract. What I would have wanted is either someone I think can play on this team, which maybe they think Bertans gets his shooting touch back, but it's been atrocious. Maybe they think he just sits in the corner with Luka and has an improvement there. I don't know. He's 30 years old. He's not a kid. I don't know. Maybe. And Dinwiddie's been pretty bad, but he is talented. But the problem with Dinwiddie is you already have Brunson and Luka at the guard spots. Are you going to play all three of them? I don't know. I thought maybe Dinwiddie or Bertans would get rerouted somewhere else and that it would start to come together and make sense. And then time has passed and it hasn't happened. So what the hell are they doing? You just made your team a lot worse. You got rid of all your rim protection. Say what you want about Porzingis. He was having an okay year. And their defense was really good. It's how they were winning games. So now you have 3 guards that you like instead of 2. Good. Okay. But Luka plays all the minutes and controls the ball. So is Dinwiddie playing? And you need to play Brunson. He's been one of your better players. But your guards are set. Fine. What are you doing anywhere else? This team got so much worse to me. And I know it was important to get rid of the Porzingis contract, but it's not like Dinwiddie. I mean, I guess the Dinwiddie piece after next year, maybe you think you can flip him as a partial expiring next year, even though he makes $10 million the year after. Man, they're going to try to showcase him, I guess, and try to trade him. But like, I don't think this did what you think it was going to do. I think you just turned one rough contract into 2 rough contracts, which may be easier to flip. I'll acknowledge that. But I don't think you're flipping the Bertans deal. I can't believe Washington must be going, someone's taking this? This is great. We'll take Porzingis. We'll eat it for 2 years. Because we had Bertans for 3 years. And we had Dinwiddie for 2 years. I would imagine Washington is going to go, we'll play him. Next year, we'll try to flip him again. This is just flips. This is flips over flips over flips. It's like Simone Biles out there. Good reference. I think if you're going to do this, you don't do it when you're actually playing well. You could have gotten this deal for Porzingis when he was terrible. Now that he's playing well, now I guess this is when you have to do it. I guess no one would have taken Porzingis before. But man, this is a hard pill to swallow for them. This is Dallas punting the season to me. They're done. They're just like, it's not going to happen. It wasn't going to happen anyway. I guess this is realistic. But they're going to fall down the standings, I think. I think this really hurts them. I think bigs are going to destroy them. And Kleber is fine, and Powell is fine, and Finney-Smith is fine. But Bertans doesn't play a lick of defense. I don't know how you defend anyone on this team. Like, this team has zero defense now. Even though their defense was great. It hasn't. Maybe they don't. I don't know. The coaching schemes have been good. Their defense has been one of the best in the league. But I really think Porzingis protecting the rim was a big reason why their defense was so great. And I won't be shocked if they really fall down to maybe an average defense, and that hurts the team badly. So this is a punt to me. This is like, we'll figure it out next year, I guess. I don't know what to make of this one. I'm very confused. And for Washington, I think Washington just needed to do something, right? They announced that Beal was out for the season. They knew they weren't going to be able to trade him. The Dinwiddie thing was not working. You got to get rid of him. You can get rid of the Davis Bertans contract. You take a flyer on Porzingis. You put him next to Kuzma. You dominate glass. You just eat glass. You can protect the rim. And then you worry about next year. And Beal comes back and you see what you can do. And if it all goes bad, you trade Beal. You wait for Porzingis to be an expiring. You work that out. And you just rebuild entirely. But I don't know. I don't think they're getting Porzingis because they think he's going to be the piece. You know what I mean? I think this was more just facilitating. And they get a second-round pick out of it. So at worst, they're like, this keeps us exactly the same as we were before, and we get a second-round pick. And we consolidated 2 bad contracts into 1. I would rather have 1 bad... well, I don't know. It depends what you're going for. Like, if you're... I guess this does make sense in some ways for both teams, right? Because Washington would rather have 1 bad contract because eventually they will bottom out, which they're trying to do. The Porzingis contract will come off the books and they'll have massive cap space. Although that would have happened with the 2 players also. I find it easier to flip Dinwiddie and Bertans, which is probably why Dallas did it. But if they're so easy to flip, why didn't Washington just flip them for something else? So this one almost is just like a wash for Washington. Nice. And for Dallas, I think it's just straight up bad. I think they made a mistake. Because if you needed Dinwiddie, like if you decided to trade Brunson and replace him with Dinwiddie and get a big for Brunson, then your roster still makes some sense because Dinwiddie can play the Brunson role. You get the big to replace Porzingis, and you can still try to be a playoff team. They didn't do that, and so now they have 3 guards and no bigs, unless you think Davis Bertans is going to suddenly protect the rim and remember how to shoot. I just don't get this. I just don't get it. Daniel Tice back to Boston. Feel-good story. That's it. That's the end of it. Enes Freedom waived. He will be a buyout candidate that will go somewhere that needs a big, and he'll play a couple minutes and be horrible on defense. Dennis Schroeder, they needed to get rid of him because they got Derrick White, and you take Daniel Tice because he's a good locker room guy. And that's pretty much it. That's the whole run. That's all of it. We missing anything? I don't think so. The Washington stuff is just the weird... The Washington stuff is they that just took what they can get. They were like, I don't care. First one to call gets it. And Mark Cuban picks up the phone. They're like, yep. He's like, I didn't even tell you what it is yet. Yep. Yeah, no, we're good. Do it. Write up the paperwork. Maybe Joe Biden needs a bodyguard. Maybe that's why Porzingis is there. I don't know. Horrible joke. It was a weird deadline. We got some impactful stuff early, and the later ones are really just there's some head scratchers here, but we'll be talking about the Simmons Harden stuff forever. I really like what the Cavs did with LeVert. I really like what the Pacers did. So let's talk winners. Winners and losers. Go full webcam. You want to see this. This is what it's about. It's really about this. The lights, the bob. Good dance. Winners and losers. Cavs are winners. Cavs are winners, no doubt. Getting LeVert, fixing the ball handling issue they had. Sixers, to me, are winners. I don't care what anybody says. Both those teams come out as winners. They got rid of Simmons, and they replaced him with a top 15 player in the NBA. Period. Raptors, not a winner. Who else are winners? The Nets are winners. The Wizards, I can't call them a winner. I just cannot. They made moves. They were active. Pacers are winners. Good sales. Good sales. Hire their sales staff, I guess. In the West, I can't believe the Warriors made no moves. I guess they're fine with the young core they have. They don't want to give up Kuminga, and Wiseman is just probably not fetching them enough because he hasn't played. I get it. Shocked the Grizzlies didn't do anything. We didn't even talk Lakers. I mean, Lakers don't make a single move. Nobody wanted Tyler Horton Tucker. He hears a who or whatever. Nobody wanted it. They had that 2027 pick. They could pair with Tucker, and they couldn't get anything. So they do nothing. I would have still done the Westbrook for John Wall thing, but obviously LeBron didn't want it. They'll be active in the buyout world, but damn, that's got to be disappointing if you're them, if the deadline passed and maybe they had something on the table, they didn't do it. I'm surprised they didn't go get a shooter of some kind or something. It's pretty weird. And the Knicks not doing anything. I mean, you have so many players on the roster that you could have traded for something. Go get a pick, even if it's a second-round pick. Do something. Maybe no one wanted any of them because they're bad. I get it, but Jesus, it's disappointing. A lot of teams stood pat. I'll get to that when I do losers. Anyway, are there any West Coast winners? I don't know. The Nuggets didn't do anything. Pelicans, I don't think, are winners. Blazers, maybe. Kings, not a winner. Spurs got a pick. Spurs got a pick. I don't see any winners in the West. I really don't. I don't know. You like Dennis Schroeder for the Rockets? Actually, don't mind that. They actually get a guard that knows how to play. I was preaching for it early in the year. Like, their tank is disgusting. Jalen Green isn't going to know how to play, and at least Schroeder is an NBA player. Not terrible. I'm not going to call him a winner, though. The winners for me are Cavs, Sixers, Nets, and Celtics. I'll give the Celtics a win there. I like the Derrick White thing. And Pacers. 5 teams, all East. Losers, though. Oh, boy. Losers, I'm going to say Raptors loser. I didn't like that Thad Young thing. I don't really understand it. It's not egregious, but I didn't like it. Knicks are a loser for not doing anything. Washington, I'm not going to give them a loser because I don't know what options they had, but it doesn't look great. Orlando didn't give up anything of substance. I'm surprised by that. Can you be a loser for not doing anything? If so, Lakers are a loser. Clippers, I'm not going to call them a loser because I like the Powell thing for next year, so good for them. Pelicans, I'm calling a loser. I'm sorry. I don't like the CJ McCollum thing. I really don't. Blazers, you skate by. Kings, you kind of a loser. I'm sorry. You gave up Halliburton. It's not egregious, again, but it's not good. Dallas, I'm calling a loser. And I guess the Warriors didn't need a move, but I would have liked to see them make one, but that'll be buyout stuff. And Grizzlies, just confident in the chemistry. I get it. So we'll see what to make of all this. It's not over. It's definitely not over. I'll have my eyes on it. I'll have my eyes big on prop bets coming up. As these new players come in, the props are going to be easy to take advantage of. When the Super Bowl is over, we will do more NBA shows, maybe a weekly NBA-focused one. And then some more college basketball. We'll get into baseball soon, if that ever exists. I want to do more throwback type of shows, more like single topic kind of podcasty style. So take a look at that when it comes out. The schedule will be evolving once Super Bowl is over. Tomorrow, Friday, before the Super Bowl, we will have the full show, picks, breakdowns, leans, props, parlays, odds, whatever other buzzword you could throw in there. It's all coming. At Mike Mush Sports on Twitter and Instagram for live up-to-the-moment reaction stuff. Should have seen me freaking out earlier today. Follow that. like the video, subscribe. It really helps. Leave a comment, join the live chat, tell your friends, tell your mom. Go to work, stand by the water cooler, talk about it. Hydrate. It's important. We'll see you next time. Peace out.